Hello and welcome to G24 review for this month. This month we're reading about our finances. We've chosen a very good book by Reverend Adeyemi called The Parable of Dollars. Last year we read a wonderful book about on our finances. That was in November. We read about the richest man in Babylon, and it was so useful. The illustrations were so good. And it still sticks to memory. I and my husband even tease ourselves on some of the things we read about there. So if you would like to catch up on that one, we have a review on YouTube that will be very useful for you. Or if you like a copy of the book, we have e-copies that we are able to share. Just let us know and we'll share it with you. So this month we're reading The Parable of Dollars by Reverend Adeyemi. The premise of the book is based on the parable of talent that Jesus gave in Matthew. And it's simply that in Matthew 25, the parable was basically that a master, was about to travel, and he gave his 3 servants some money to take care of whilst he's away. They gave the first servant 5 bags of money. The second servant, he gave 2 bags. And the third one, he gave just 1 bag. After a long time, the master came back and the servant rushed to him. The first servant said, "Master, I have invested my 5 bags of money and I've got 10 bags back." The second servant said the same thing, that he invested in 2 bags and he got 2 bags back. And the master said, "Well done, good servant. Come share in my happiness." But the last servant said, "Master, because I know that you're a hard man and that you sow where you don't reap, you like to harvest what you haven't sown. Because you're a wicked person and I'm scared of you, I dug a hole, hid your money in there, and now that you're back, you can take your money." And the master said, "Nah, this is not good enough." And he said that the money that the 1 bag that was given to that servant should be given to the first servant that yields an increase, that has 10 bags of money. So Reverend Adeyemi is trying to tell us from these proverbs that we are God's stewards. The money we have, our possessions, everything that we have, that we hold in our hands, those things that we treasure and cherish, the new accomplishments, whatever it is that we have right now, we are just stewards. All these things belongs to God. And that was what he used chapter 1 to explain to us. It said the starting point of financial breakthrough is for you to realize that you're God's steward and you're being put in charge of what you have. So if you follow God's leading, you will not lack for anything. But if you want to be the controller of the things that you have, then there might be some issues there because you're not able to keep or to increase what is not even yours to start with. So that's what chapter 1 is about. And he also in chapter 1 he mentioned how we should be diligent and that we should use what we have. So if you have £10 or £100, you don't have to wait till you hit the jackpots before you start investing and using that which God has given you and multiplying that which God has given you. Chapter 2 talked about wealth mentality, and I love this chapter so much, especially when Reverend Sam said, wealth is not judged by how much you have or how much work you're doing, but it's about who you are up here. He said, being wealthy is a state of being, not a state of doing or having. So he's trying to just tell us that if we start changing our thinking, if we start thinking as wealthy people, we'll begin to see some shifts in our thinking that will allow opportunities to come in that would cause change to happen. And he said we need to change our heart. Basically, we need to renew our heart. We need to let go of certain biases, the things we've learned about that being poor is second to piety, all those things, we should do away with them and come to God knowing how much he has to give us. And then he also said, he gave this quote that I really appreciate. He said, the quality of your life will not appreciate beyond the quality of your heart. And he finished it with saying that the first law of success is first within, then without. So The inside has to change first before the outside begins to reflect the changes inside. But he mentioned that what he has noticed about most Christians is that we want to show people the change on the outside without actually changing our inside. So he said, we buy clothes, we buy things to show that, yes, we are rich. But if we're not thinking like rich people, if we're not challenging ourselves to take certain risks, to push a little more, to push against the barrier, we might find ourselves just doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And it made an illustration that a stronghold is like a fortified fence. It takes a lot to break it down. But sometimes we Christian, we just use our finger to touch our stronghold as though, yeah, you have to move. And as though that would change anything. But he said stronghold requires force, it requires push. If we fail to put our strength in it and really push, we find that we're not getting anywhere. And he said that's what our mind is. It would take a lot to change our mindset. And the way we can start to do it is by thinking well, thinking rich, thinking like rich people, not using up all our resources, not thinking we just have to stay poor or we just have to stay within our means and that's okay. He said we need to step out under God and trust in God to help us. And he said we should avoid some conventional thinking. He mentioned lots of things that some of us believe that two birds in hand is better than one that is in forest. But he believes that have the 3 birds and have God bless you on it and see what God will do. So he's asking us to take the big step forward and take those risks. We should make moves in advancing our financial growth, and we should not just stay in one place. We should make investments, do certain things that will help you to break the stronghold. He gave an example of how when he was a young pastor, he thought if he could have like big guest speaker come to, big as in rich and popular guest speakers come to speak in his church, people would come to see the guest speaker and eventually stay in the church and make it their church. But when he told his mentor, when he said this to his mentor, he said, no, that's not correct. You be the person, you have so much in your core that people would flock into your church to come listen to you because you carry something inside of you. And he said, when he heard that, it changed his mentality. It changed how he would think of going abroad to go so they can earn more and things like that. He said it changed his mentality when he knew that it is he himself that needs to be built and not other person. Then lastly, he said that we should fight our critical thoughts. He said sometimes we bring ourselves down. We say to ourselves, it's our doubt that limits us from actually making improvements. So he said we should fight those critical thoughts. When we find ourselves subjecting ourselves to thoughts that are not liberating or enlightening, we should profess what God has said over our lives and then start to see the manifestation. Then lastly, he mentioned something Dr. Miles Monroe said the number of financial books you have should be equal to your age. So if you're 30, you should have read 30 books. So 1 book per year. And that's what we've tried to do in G24. We've tried to we've tried to ensure that each year we read something about finances. So we don't just sit back and relax. We need to hear something that pushes us on. But on your own personal time, you can seek books out, listen to videos, try things that are new, listen to people who have taken financial risk and have made and have been successful at it. Listen to their methods, the tricks, what maneuver they did, the tricks, the skills, the steps, and then try to follow in their footsteps. The 3rd chapter is on financial intelligence. And he said, in this chapter, he said we should be specific about how much money we want to have and plan towards it. So he said it's not enough for us to just say, God, I want to be rich. Let it be a target. If it's to have a job, that you will start earning like 40,000 per year, if that is your target, let it be what you're praying for. Don't pray wildly. I think our elder, the fact as he always said that when you're praying, don't pray, don't pray in a general manner. Speak to the problem, attack the mountain. If 40K per year is what you want to say it to God. It's not a big, the Reverend Adeyemi was telling us that it's not evil to want to say you don't, it's not a bad thing to say you want to be rich. It's part of God's plan for us that we prosper, even as our soul prospers. Then he gave an example of how Joseph had a dream. Joseph in the Bible, he had a dream about the times of plenty and the times of famine, and he planned towards it. So during the years of that, there was plenty in the land in Egypt. Then he saved 20% of all the food they have. He saved them in a storage, so that when the next 7 years of famine, when it came, they started eating from what they've saved. He did this, that other countries flocked to Egypt to buy food. So we need to be nations that lend to nations. We need to start saving and not just eat anything we fancy or buy something just because we've seen someone else wearing it. Or we need to start being our own person as much as God will help us to. We need to make a stand against covetousness, against wanting what other people have, against wanting to measure our success by what other people are doing. And the author also gave an advice on financial intelligence that we need to start thinking now about what our expenses will be when we retire. So on gov.uk on the HMRC section, there's a way you can see how much pension you will earn when you retire, at what age you retire, and also in the same section on the same HMRC section, there's a part where you're able to see all the pension you've contributed so far in your entire life working in the UK. Even if it's menial jobs, so far you've paid taxes and you paid pension on them, you will see everything. And if you want to bring everything to one pot, you're able to do so. So let's use the resources that are there for us. Let's start thinking about what will happen when we actually stop working, so that our mind begins to know how best to calculate what we have at the moment. And the author also mentioned about making realistic investments and making ones with simple interest and some with compound interest. So the simple interest investment are the ones that yield quick increase, whilst the ones with compound interest are the ones where you keep paying into the pot, and it's over time, like over many years, that you get your reward and get the outcome of how much you've saved. And it reminds me of this Bible verse that says, cast your bread upon many waters and see it come back to you. So let's just cast our bread. Don't cast our bread foolishly, but wisely, with deep thoughts. Cast our bread accordingly and see what increase it will bring back to us. And it said we should save, we should not spend unexpected income. Like, for example, when it's your birthday, someone gives you £50 here, and that person gives you £20, you get £10, you get £5. You don't have to spend them because we're not expecting this money. Or you give birth, you bought all the things you want, and people to give to you with money. Put everything together and save. That is what he's telling us. We should save unexpected income. We should invest in shares. We should read about stock exchange. I know stock exchange is so hard to read, especially for me. I tried doing it one time, but yeah, I'm learning, so to say. Yeah, so we should try and read up on these things that elude us, this thing that they can trick us with and tell us X is Y, whereas it's just Y. Let's just read up on them, be intelligent ourselves, so that we'll be able to make wise decisions per time. In the 4th chapter, the author advised us to spend less. We should avoid get-rich schemes. Invest in property, like buying a property and renting it out so you can get the money back. We should invest in property. We should brand ourselves. We should work hard, and sometimes working hard would mean sweating, but it's okay if we stay focused. It's okay, because much from hard work comes great outcome. And then it ends with us trying to celebrate our little successes. So if you've been able to save 20% of your income for 2 months, you can buy yourself a takeout, or you can buy a simple, I don't know, bracelet, something that reminds you that you did it, so that in the next 2 months, when you're tempted to go splurge and buy things and spend money like something else, when you see it, you remember how much joy you had saving those 20%. So let's celebrate our successes. We have the whole of our life to get wealthy. I'm trying to say it's a process. So through the process, let's just relax sometimes and just enjoy, and then move on to be disciplined with our savings. The next chapter 5, talked about money power. And this is where the author said we should identify what increases our energy. We should build our life in line with our uniquenesses. And this is where it comes to be, where he said we can't be like everyone else. We can't measure our success with other people's success. He gave a beautiful illustration here. He said, if you were given 200 naira notes, let me use pounds because most of us are in the UK. If you're giving 200, let's say, if you're giving 20 pounds notes, one is new, one is old. If you're giving the old note, would it be any different than the new note? No, it's the same 20 pounds. It's the same value. It just looks different. So he's saying, if your co-worker or your colleagues, if they achieve success way ahead of you, that's fine. That's their newness. But at the time you are achieving your own success, it is new in that time, and it is yours to enjoy. So we should stop measuring our success by other people's yardstick, because we don't even know the miles and the acres God has in plan for us. When I know it is hard to not think about things when you hear about how this person has done their PhD, how they've done, I don't know what your heart desires are. When you see that your friends or your colleagues, they're getting promotions and doing stuff, it's human nature to want to think, when would this thing be, or to rush and go and apply for things and stuff. But let's calm down. Let's chill and follow the blueprint God has given us, so that we do not miss our way and start running after shadows when it's not even anything to run after. The last thing he said in this chapter said we should align ourselves with like minds. Surround yourself with rich people that think like you, not people that complain and moan and think, life is hard, it's hard. Before you know it, you will say life is hard. Surround yourself with people with energy, with sparks, people that are ready to push forward, so that when you're a bit tired, you remember their sparks. They're able to hold you accountable, and you hold each other accountable. And that's not to say we should not be friends with people that are not like us. We should be friends with people that are like us. But when we see people when we see that they're saying things that's making us more depressed, more tired of our status quo, or wanting to give up, that's when we need to give a wide mark. And that's according to the author, not myself. And lastly, he said we should see what kind of side jobs we could do. Like, what skill do you have that can yield more money than your 9-to-5 job? Can you plait hair? Are you good at farming? Are you good at walking dogs? Are you good at babysitting? Anything that would fit into your family life and your work, that would balance your work life and family life, that you can do on the side to earn more money. Why not do it? He said we should stop seeing those things as hobbies and just pour our attention on them, so we can get more from our skills, and then stick to what are just normal or hobbies. Chapter 6 talks about 3 rich men, and here the author was just simply saying, avoid greed. When the money comes, avoid holding everything tightly to your chest. Be willing to give and avoid wasting things. And there's something the author said that pricked my heart. He said sometimes, most of us, we can spend a lot of money, lavish money on parties, but when it comes to giving money for certain projects in church, or buying something the church needs, or the men of God needs, we complain and say, they're asking for money. But when it's time to to do a party where you've changed your clothes 3 times. We don't mind spending, because the spotlight is on us and we want to show people that we're there. But that is not the point of being steward of what God has given us. The point of it is that He owns everything. So the first point of giving is to give back to His house, back to His men of God, back to His men, the people that we sit under and collect from the anointing, the people that we sit under and get nourishment. We should also be willing to give. We should be willing to give them some of the outcome of what they've blessed us with. It shouldn't be hard, and I'm hoping that God will continue to help us. The 7th chapter talks about financial empowerment, and here the author was just, it was so clear here. He kept re-emphasizing, he kept talking about it, like, having money is not evil. Being poor is not piety. It's not being holy. You can have money. You can be blessed by God and have money. You can be spiritual and godly and wealthy at the same time. So she lose that mentality that says, I don't need to have money. The one I have is okay. Contentment is okay. There's contentment, and there's also being successful at what you do. So it's just charging us here that it is not money that is bad. It is the love of money that is bad. So if God blesses us, we deserve it. We should rejoice in His blessings, in the richness of His glory, and celebrate it, not hide it or feel guilty about it. The last chapter talks about releasing your increase, and it's just sowing. I know most times I will read when we read books on finances written by Christian, at the back of our mind, we know what they'll be saying is give. To be honest, I had in mind that this is going to come into the book, but I'm surprised that the author left it at the far end. At first, it charged his main core in the first few chapters is how you think, how are you thinking, change how you're thinking. But now it's not a truth that can be avoided. We need to sow to reap. And the author said a beautiful thing in that chapter. He said, seed time, and harvest time are determined. So you will need to give for a shift to happen. So being determined means it will happen. If you sow, if you pour a grain of corn in the ground, it's bound to germinate. So if we don't give, we might not get. And in that chapter, I think, if I can remember well, he gave lots of Bible verses to back up his point. So basically, we are being encouraged to pay our tithe, 10% of our income or earnings. We should pay our offerings. We should give passionately to the church, to the men of God, to the poor, to widows. Give as you're led to. Let money not be your divide. Let money not be what. Don't let money be something that will divide you from God. Give passionately. And it doesn't have to be money alone. Now, some of us, we're still trying our best to manage the income God has given us. And I know how hard it is when your income is not enough for a month and you have to go into overdraft or even into borrowing sometimes. It is reality. So when we're saying give, we're not saying give outside of yourself. We're not saying give in an unrealistic way. We're saying give according to what the Spirit is leading you to. It wouldn't lead you to give lavishly and then go back home and drink Gary, or go back home and your child will say, Mommy, I want cereal. And you say there's no cereal. Come and drink Gary instead. Don't give so much that you put yourself in pain. Give according to what the Holy Spirit is leading you to do. And it doesn't have to be money. It could be your service. I know Pastor has told us over and over in church that giving is not just about money. It could be your service. It could be there. I remember one time where he said, a person needed someone to take one of the guest speakers for shopping. So, because he needed to go to work. And this person he didn't just take this man of God shopping. He paid for everything the man of God bought. And that was really encouraging for me. So it's in service as well. We don't have to pay. Sometimes it's just being present. Sometimes it's just relieving them of their tasks and just saying, is there anything I can help with, ma? Is there anything I can help with, sir? It's taking their bags. It's giving them a cup of water. It's giving them a cup of drink. It's just anything that relieves their stress. is also service. So we should bear that in mind. When we are buying our boxes of foods, to think about the pastors and their wives as well. They go through a lot. We think about them and add them to our shopping list. It will be good once in a while. Buy one for your child, buy another one for their child. And God will reward, we'll see what you're doing in secret, will reward you openly. And I pray that God will continue to bless us. I want to summarize this review by going back to the quote I shared earlier when we started in chapter 1, that says, the quality of your life will not appreciate beyond the quality of your heart. The first law of success is first within, then without. I hope this has blessed you. Bye. See you later.